Hello everybody, welcome to our virtual 67 Pall Mall. Tomorrow David Trafford will join us from Stellenbosch in South Africa to talk about his wines, the De Trafford wines. Then our own Federico Mocchia will speak with Mara Ferrari from Calvisius Caviar. And then we're back to South Africa with Warren Ellis, who'll be discussing his Neil Ellis wines along with Greg Sherwood MW. And after that, Richard Bamfield MW will be comparing Bordeaux with Australia. And then finally, our own Cecilia Bonnet will talk with Hervé Bernie Scott from Terrazas de los Andes in Mendoza. So another busy day tomorrow. But for now, we're very pleased to welcome Julia Moraza from her family winery, Bodegas Moraza in Rioja, who will be joined alongside with Edouard Auger MS, who's the UK importer for Dynamic Wines. So please chat away on the side, show us what you're drinking and where you're drinking it from, and put your photos on social media with hashtag 67FromHome. As usual, we'll have 15 minutes at the end to ask questions. So a big welcome to Julia and to Edouard. Hello both, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Edouard, you look like you're in a very glamorous place there, I must say.
Well, it's the sunny Devon.
That's what Devon looks like, does it? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you very much for doing this, both of you. Thank you, Julia. We're very excited to hear your story and to hear what's happening in Rioja at the moment. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us to talk a little bit about our story and our daily life here in Rioja. So if you want, I can a little bit explain what we do, where
Absolutely.
we are.
Yeah, please do.
Perfect. So we are a very small family-run business that we are located actually in Rioja Alta, in the village of San Vicente de la Sonsierra. Now you see on your screen that we have the map of Rioja with the three different areas of Rioja Alta, Rioja Alavesa, which is part of the Basque country that they make wine, and Rioja Baja. We are exactly located in between those two parts of Rioja Alavesa in San Vicente de la Sonsierra. We are exactly in the south of Sierra Cantabria, which is the mountain that separates geographically the Basque country. And in the south, we have the Ebro River. So all of our vineyards, they are located facing south. So the village is located actually at 500 meters in altitude, and all the vineyards usually they are between 400 and 650 meters in altitude. In our area, most of the wines we have Tempranillo, which is like the superstar of Rioja. We have Viura, which is the white variety, also called Macabeo. And we have Garnacha. Those are one of the main, but not only those three. So the location that we are, it's very peculiar because the mountain that separates the Basque country from Rioja, it blocks all the humidity from the Basque country. And by contrary, it makes a lot of wind. So in the village, around 85% of the days, it's windy. And actually it starts around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And at some point, sometimes it's a little bit severe. And it goes very well for the vineyard. And that is why, because during summer we have a lot of difference in temperature between the day and night. Not this year, that it's a little bit awkward in all sense, but usually in summer we can be around 34, 35 degrees during the day, and at night it decreases very much, around 15. And with the wind, the feeling it's even lower. This goes very well for the maturity of the grapes, and it avoids a lot of sickness of the grapes. So the winery now it's run by me, But I am not alone in this project. I am the 6th generation. And now it's my husband and me and 2 of my cousins who are in this big project, and always under the eye of my uncle and my dad. They have been doing wine for all their life, so they have a lot of experience. So sometimes we need to ask for a lot of advice, and they are the best person, the best people to give us the advice. In our vineyards, we work in organic, and we work in biodynamic as well. And that's something that in my family, that to be honest, they are more like wine growers than the producers, because everything since the first moment, the philosophy is that everything is made in the vineyard. So you need to pay a lot of attention to the vineyard in order to have a good wine. So everything we work manual. So according to the wine as a concept, as general, we work by gravity and with minimal intervention. The harvest is made by hand. Actually, it's those rough days that we need to be ready in order to pick up the grapes at the proper moment. And in the winery, we work with concrete tanks, especially for the reds. In my family, they have been making reds. Most of the time, they tried one white and one rosé at some point of time, but they were very strong in reds, especially with Tempranillo. And my family has been working with concrete since the 50s. The wine was made in different, at my grandma's house, that it was also made in concrete. And it was aged also at some point in concrete. So for the reds, we keep that tradition here in the winery that we are in now, that it was built in 1993. And first of all, when we do the handmade harvest, it falls by gravity into big tanks. Those big tanks, they are naked concrete. And after the first, in the picture that you have right now in front of you, in those tanks that they are on top, it's where we make the alcoholic fermentation. So once the grapes, they are inside, they start the spontaneous fermentation. And since 2018, before the harvest is finished, we do the development into those smaller tanks that they are underneath, where they make the malolactic fermentation. And at some point, we do some aging with the wines. For the whites, we work completely in stainless steel. And we work that way with the whites in order to keep the acidity, because my philosophy in the winery is that my goal is to make the kind of wines that my father and my uncle, they used to drink when they were 13, that in that moment people used to drink when they were younger. Those Rioja wines that they were fresh, nice acidity, no essence of any oak at all, very fruity. And the idea is to go back to the roots. So as you may see in the pictures, everything is made manual, because after the alcoholic fermentation, we go into those tanks in order to do the debating, everything by hand. So we keep that part of the tradition, but the innovation in this case is to work into the alcohol levels. That for the whites, we are talking about 11 and a half, and according to the reds, my goal would be to have red wine with 12 in alcohol degree. Every year I do my best in order to get it. And let's see, for example, this year how everything is going to work. So because I think that in Rioja there are two kinds of realities. One is the kind of wines that people in other countries that they know, that it's the kind of wines that they were made by big wineries in order to export, that the wine was made in those barrels. And the other reality, which is the winemaker. Here in the village, around 95% of the people works from the vineyards. Most of them, they sell the grapes, but it's a kind of fun that when they go to the bar and they ask for a wine, they always ask for wines with no oak. And that's part of the tradition of the kind of wines that the wine grower used to drink since long time ago. So if you want, we can start tasting some of the wines, or if you want, I can tell you.
Julia, I have a question. So, so it looks like obviously you don't use oak whatsoever, you know, at the estates, but oak is a big thing in Rioja, for sure. So are you, by having those locals asking for unoaked Riojas, are you trying to say that Rioja is slowly going back to how it was made by you know, back in the 20s and 30s?
I don't know if it is going back, because when I talk about the locals, I always talk about the people in the village, that they have been growing grapes since long time ago. Because if you go outside of this area of San Vicente, Avalos, La Bastida, people in big cities, usually it's very strong that they drink something with oak, and sometimes they don't put the value with in some wines that they don't have oak. I don't know if you can understand what I mean. And it's like if it doesn't have oak, they think that they miss something. So I think it's what I said, like two kind of realities. The reality of the wine grower that every day is in the vineyards and they want a very frank and honest wine that reflects the terroir. And in other parts of the cities, for the main public, they need something strong and oaky, because their idea of Rioja is from the 80s and 90s. It is true that in Spain it's growing a little bit in the movement of more fruity wines and less oaky wines. But I think that it's the beginning. I think that we have a lot in order to work on that.
Okay, so you think there would be more producer, you know, following your movement?
Yes, I think that especially the small producers, that all of us we have in our mind the kind of wines that our grandparents used to drink. So I think that slowly the people who is making wines, small producers, young people, I think that the tendency is to use less oak or older barrels in order not to have the flavor of the oak, and to have the flavor of first of all the variety that you are working with, and the terroir that you have.
Very good. And just one more thing. You said at the beginning of your presentation that you.
Hello?
Always been the case? Your parents.
Sorry, the video was stopped with your question.
Right. I was saying, you know, at the beginning of your presentation, you said that you do work, you follow the organic and biodynamic principles. What about your father, your uncles? Were they already following those principles?
Yeah, actually, the vineyards, they were very well treated since always, because as I said, they were growers. So the most important thing, it was always the vineyard. So if imagine that in a terrific moment that you need to sell something, my father always said, sell the winery, not the vineyards, because it's like the little jewel that everybody has. My father, for example, doesn't care about a house or a big garden or things like that. His dream, it's always the vineyard, and actually he's retired, and every day he's going around. So all the vineyards, they were treated inorganic. They flirt with the pesticides in the 70s, my grandfather also, but they didn't like the result, because it's true that it killed the bad airs, but also the others. So everything was made in organic, and we applied for the certification, because that was something that at some point it was natural, but the problem is that you need more paperwork. So that's something that we applied by slowly. So even though the treatment in the vineyards was completely organic, the application for the different plots that we have, it was in different years. I asked to my uncle to ask for all of them, and he was like, no, that's a lot of paperwork, so let's do it first these 5 plots, and then we'll see. So slowly, until the end, he was like, I think I'm going to apply for all of that. And I was like, cool, that's a great idea. And according to biodynamics, it's the same. As I said, they are growers. So you have to imagine in the 60s, in the position of Spain, that all they used to do, it was watching at the wine, how it was developed, the vineyard and everything. So when I was talking about biodynamics, for example, with my father, he was like, what is that? And I'm like, well, to work with the moon fluctuations, to do this and this and this. And he was like, that's something that we always do. And I was like, yeah, but it has a name. And the name is biodynamics. We didn't use the horn, but we were working with the moon fluctuations and also even in the winery for racking the wine. They used to follow very much at the moon, and according to the bottling, it was always made with the descendant moon. Is said in English? Descendant moon, decrease.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was something that it was natural. So this year we applied for the Demeter certification, because that's something that we used to do, and now it was time to do it with all the results and everything like that.
Cool. Very good. I think people are probably thirsty now.
Mm-hmm. So if you want, we can taste some of the wines. Would you like to do that, Ronan or Edward?
Yes, sounds good. I think.
Yeah, yes, please. That'd be great.
Okay, so I'm going to start talking about Moraza Diasol. This is a white wine, 2018, and this is 100% Bura. This Moraza, actually it's my last name, so it's the name of the winery as well, and Diasol is the name of the plot. This plot is located in Peciña, which is kind of a neighborhood of San Vicente de la Sonsierra, and this vineyard is at 650 meters in altitude, completely facing the south. And it's 34 years old. The way that people plant in here, it's that in the highest part, you usually plant a white variety, because usually the soil, it's much poor than in lower parts. So for this wine, we made it in stainless steel in order to keep the acidity that Bura, it's a variety that it doesn't have a lot of acidity comparing to other varieties. And it stayed in the tank until August 19, and the rest in bottle. It's a wine that it's super straight. It's more in the citrus, and it's very mineral because the soil, it's calcareous, it's clay, because it's almost in the mountain. And the color, it's pale, and the idea is to have something very fresh, very direct, with a very nice acidity, something that easy to drink by itself, or something that you can combine with food, with some chicken, because my idea is that we are in an area that it's fully connected with food. So you need something that it must have acidity, and something that it doesn't put your palate like tired, like happens sometimes with some kind of wine. So something that can keep you drinking, eating, and even after a lunch, keep on drinking that bottle and don't feel dizzy or tired of the wine, and have a nice conversation and go to bed and wake up with a good mind. I mean, not heavy mind. So, it's this vineyard. It's made. It was planted in Doble Royat because, as I said, it's in the mountain, and it's a winery that it's super windy. So the problem was during the spring that some of the future canes could be broken. Actually, what we did with some vineyards that they are old, that actually was made in Goblet. We put some trellis 2 years ago because, for example, one vineyard that it's called La Vejera, which is close to the winery, actually, around 15% of the canes were broken due to the wind. But the wind also makes so mineral the flavor and the wines. So the next one that we can try, it's Moraza, Las Tasugueras. Las Tasugueras, it's a vineyard that it's located in Rivas, another neighborhood of San Vicente. And this vineyard actually belongs to my uncle. And it's a vineyard that, as you may see in the label, this part, it's from the document of my family when they bought it in 1902. And actually, the vineyard, obviously, it was much smaller. And my family started to buy around in order to make the vineyard bigger. So this vineyard belongs, as I said, to my uncle, and he bought the highest part. And the highest part, it wasn't planted with anything, but one day that we were in the office, he said, I think I'm going to plant the highest part of Las Tasugueras. And I went, nice. And I thought that he was going to plant Biura, that because the soil over there in the highest part, it's very, very poor, and it has a lot of erosion. And he said, but I think I'm going to plant Tempranillo Blanco. What do you think? I was like, wow, like flipping out, because I was so happy to have a different variety to work on, to see what we could do with something new, that I was like, yes, it's the best thing actually that you can tell me to have a Tempranillo Blanco. So we planted now 4 years ago, and it was a kind of fun, because we made after we planted this vineyard, we made a tasting in the winery that I bought like 9 or 10 different bottles of Tempranillo Blanco, and it was completely desperated because my family, my cousins, my husband, my father, my uncle, we were tasting, and it was at all the flavor that we were looking for. And it was a kind of fun because my uncle said, if we planted this and the result is going to be what we tasted, it's not going to be a very good variety. But this is the first year that we elaborated, the 2018, that we elaborated the Tempranillo Blanco. And it's a variety that it's very floral. It's more into the peach and that kind of fruits. It's very, very, it has a lot of expression. And according to the viticulture, it's exactly the same as the Tempranillo. It has the same sensibility to the mildew, to the oidio. And when I was talking to a professor in the university, I asked him about the Tempranillo Blanco, and he told me, you have to be careful about the oxidation, because sometimes the Tempranillo Blanco gets oxidized in the fermentation, and maybe that can be a problem. But to be honest, in my case, a little bit of oxidation in my wines, especially, I mean, in the whites, it's not a problem. Actually, what they do, it's to get the wines better, because it gets a little bit more deep in the flavor, and it gets like more, it's longer, and it gets a little bit crisper in the mouth. So we did it, and the result so far, even though this was the first year that we made it was very good from my point of view. We are working on the alcohol degree. This is 12.5, and I would like to have it around 12, 11 and a half in order to see how everything goes, because as I said, my goal is to work with less alcohol, like in the old days. And let's see what this year gives us, even though this year it's not going to be any easy year. This year it's actually it's getting complicated. We had actually in this vineyard we had some hail, but it's going to, I mean, the maturity of the grapes and everything, it's going to be good because it was early. So I think that the vineyard, it has the capacity of recovery.
So if you would compare both white Riojas, would you say that the Diasol, the first one, is really very easy, very light, can be great as an aperitif or with food, and then the second is it's much more something which should be enjoyed with food?
No, I think that both of them, they can work pretty well, but I think that for the Las Tasugueras, it's something that you need to pay a little bit of attention, because depending on what you have, maybe the wine can eat the food, because it has it's a little bit more intense in aromas, and you have to be careful with what you have for lunch. The other one, it can be the Diasol, can be a very nice pairing, for example, with oysters. It's much more delicate, so it can be with different flavors, more raw, neutral, something like that.
Cool. Cool. Nice.
Well, I didn't say, sorry, that the Tempranillo Blanco, actually it's a mutation of the regular Tempranillo, that actually in one vineyard, they found that from 2 canes, they had no color. So after that, it's why the Tempranillo Blanco is like that. It was like 2 canes with no color. So the primary Tempranillo, it's the same. And actually, most of the Tempranillo Blanco that they are planted, they come from the same plant. So we are going to pass to Moraza, Cuatro Caminos. Moraza, Cuatro Caminos is the name of the plot. It's the vineyard that you can see in that picture. And it's the biggest vineyard that we have. This vineyard, it has 5 hectares, and it's what you see in the picture, and actually behind that little hill that we have in the back. And it's the same as Las Tasuberas. My grandparent started to buy the vineyards around, and that's why we have the vineyard with 5 hectares, because that one is not very often actually in Rioja, because, well, I mean, in the area that I am, in San Vicente, in La Bastida, that it's more like small plots, that they have different growers. So people usually compare Rioja with Bordeaux. And from my point of view, and that's why my wines, they are made different, and I work by plot and by single varieties, because I see it more like Burgundy, with a lot of differences, but mainly in order to understand a little bit much better, it's because in all the vineyards, for sure, you're going to find the Tempranillo. So it's completely different, the Tempranillo that you can have at 400 meters altitude, with a Mediterranean behavior of the vineyard versus the Asol, for example, that it's more Atlantic. So that's why I separate by plot. I don't, I pay attention very much how the vineyard is doing during the year, in order to see if we are going to do a wine from that vineyard or no. So in this case, in Cuatro Caminos, it's the biggest vineyard, but it's in the one that we have more varieties, because in the highest part, it's Viura, and in the picture that you have in front of you, it's Tempranillo, and actually in the where we are going, it's a place where we have a little bit of Graciano. It's the only vineyard that we have Graciano, that we will taste a wine, the last one. And the Viura, and well, in this case, all the vineyard, it's very old. Some parts, they are older than others. And in the case of Viura, it's more than 45 years old. And the Cuatro Caminos Viura that we are tasting, the 2018, we wanted to make it different. So what we made, it's skin contact. We didn't want to go like very wild, because it was the first year that we made it, and you've got to know how everything goes and how develops the wine and everything. So it started, it made the alcoholic fermentation and stayed with the skins for 1 month. It's the picture that you have over there from the 2018. So the winemaking, it's what in here is said, like making the white like a red, with all the skin. And it's something that we made in order to have a little bit more in the mouth, with different flavors, with but without adding any barrel at all. So only the purity of the variety. And it's a wine, actually, that it's for the 2018. It was okay, but now it's a little bit complicated, actually, for the 2019 vintage. It's a wine that in the first place, when the DOC makes the tastings in order to give the okay, it was declassified, because they argued that it had a little bit of oxidation. And in Rioja, it's considered that it's defectuous. And so we are applying, in order to defend the wine, that it's a wine that it doesn't have any any defect. Actually, all the notes that it has, it comes because of that fermentation. So we are going to have the last word of the DOC. This it is supposed that it's going to be this week or the next week, because I think that the DO, it's also, even though right now it's difficult, it's opening to new things. Because, for example, in 2017, they started to allow to put the name of the village, that it was something that it was forbidden before, in order to see where the wines comes from. It is you can put the name of the village if your vineyards, they are in the same place as the winery. It's a beginning. I think that it's something that the DOC must work on that in order to allow to put the place of the vineyards, as long as you can demonstrate that. But I think that they are like some small things that they are changing in the DO. So according to this way of working with this white, with the skin contact, it's something that they are also considering to open to new ways of fermenting the wine. Because I jump over the joven, crianza, and reserva mentions, because it's something that I don't believe, and I don't think that it's important for a wine, that it's much more important the way you do it, and obviously the vineyard, which is basic for all the wines, and the behavior of the vineyard and the character, if it is Atlantic, if it is clay and limestone, if you have a little bit of alluvial, because at the end it gives the different flavors in the wine. So that's something, as I said, that is changing a little bit. And in this wine, in 2018, I think that it's a very nice approach of beginning of an orange wine, because it's very neat in the nose, and you have a little bit of bitter, and but always very fruity. So that's a kind of wine that I would love to keep on doing if the DOC allowed us to do this kind of wines.
I've got to say, it's probably one of the lightest and leanest orange wine I ever tested.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's you know, some people find orange wine very difficult to understand, and I think it's fair to say that some of them can be, you know, a little bit challenging, but yours is definitely very, very lean, very neat.
Yeah, I think that it can be like a nice approach to the orange wine. As you said, maybe if you don't know about if you don't know anything about those kind of wines and you taste one, it can be like shocking. But I think if you start with lighter wines or lighter orange wine, like mine, I think that it can be a good beginning in order to get introduced into another kind of orange wines, another producers, amazing Italian producers that actually dynamic wines also they have in the portfolio. And as you said, sometimes it's difficult to understand, and it's what I said. Actually, the DOC doesn't really understand pretty much this wine, so that's why we are in standby, and we went to the appellation court of Rioja in order to see if we can do it like Rioja, because otherwise, you know that Rioja it's the oldest DOC in Spain, that it comes from 1929, and actually it has a calificada, so it means that everything is much control. So one of the things with Rioja, for example, is that if they after the tasting and the analysis, if they say that a wine is not typical of a Rioja wine, the wine is declassified. And the problem with that is that in here you are not allowed to do a wine from Spain. for example. So if they declassified my wine, I have to sell it to a wine from Spain winery, or to give it to the place where they make alcohols, because I cannot make any other wine inside the Rioja winery. So that's why it's a little bit tricky, and that's something that I am every year I'm always surfing with all the limits of Rioja and everything, in order to be inside the law.
Stay positive.
Yeah, I think so. Fingers crossed. Let's see what they say next week. Actually, if they say that we can put Rioja, it would be great, because it means that the DO is jumping into an opening, into making everything with another point of view, which is very important, especially for this kind of DOs. So I will tell you the result. Otherwise,
Please do.
Let's see what we can do. So we are going to start with the reds, and we are going to start with the Garnacha. So this is 2017 Garnacha, 100% Garnacha, that we have in two different plots in Avalos, which is the village 5 kilometers far from San Vicente. This variety, it's also very fruity, and but it's into the red berries. These two vineyards, one is called La Caseta and the other one is called La Vejera. They are at 600 meters. In altitude, they are also more than 40 years old. And this Garnacha, it's especially this clone, it's a variety that it was introduced in Rioja in the 60s, beginning of the 70s. And started from the east, going into the northwest of Rioja. And it's and especially this Garnacha, when it's young, it's difficult to work with that by itself, because sometimes the acidity goes from one side, the fruity part goes into the other side. So in order to make it a little bit round, you need time. And the first, I was like dying in order to make 100% Garnacha. But my father and my uncle didn't want to do it, because they used to make this Garnacha for a blend with the Tempranillo, because the Garnacha, it's a variety that it has a higher acidity than the Tempranillo, and it was like a help in order to push a little bit, in order to have lighter in the mouth and even less color. So I was like dying, and it was they didn't want to do it until one day I was with my husband in the vineyards, and we were working on that. And especially in the springtime, and I was explaining a little bit, because he's from Canada, and I was explaining a little bit everything. It was at the beginning, and he said, we have to do it, we have to do a 100% Garnacha. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm waiting for the okay of my father and my uncle. So we had to think something. So we said, okay, let's say then that somebody asked for a 100% Garnacha, and all the wine is sold out before making that. So we had to lie about that. And when I was talking to them, they said, okay, if it is sold out, sure, we can do it. What do you think that we should do? They asked me. So it was like our goal, and actually we started only with around 1,000 bottles, and it was it was like a succeed, because it was something unique, and especially that year that it was we had a lot of acidity, the pH was super low, it was like a kind of a shocking. And I have to say that my dad and my uncle, they were like a little bit, I'm not very used to this kind of flavor, but it's okay, because I see that you sold the bottles, but I don't really understand. Now I have to say that they love the garnacha, and they don't like to have it every day, but I know that sometimes they love to have a bottle of garnacha in order to enjoy. So this is 2017. I have to say that the 2017, it was a complicated year. And 2017, we had a frost, the 28th of April. So it was super late, and we lost around 80% of the production. So all of our vineyards, they were completely burned by the frost, up to the almost 600 meters. So only Las Tasugueras, Diasol, and the Garnacha could survive of this, because as I told you, it's from 650 up to 400. So in this valley part, the frost devastated all the vineyard. And I can say that what I said, sometimes experience, it's important, that my father was like a pain in the neck, saying like, we have to irrigate at least one of the vineyards, because I see that it's going to be a frost, it's going to be a frost. And my cousins and me were like, okay, let's do it, because I don't want to hear my father again saying that again. It was a lot of work, that we put a lot of pipes in order to bring some water from the river, because we don't have any irrigation at all, in one of the vineyards that it's called Los Terreros. And we could save that vineyard because of the irrigation in that period of time, because of the experience of my father, because otherwise that vineyard, which is at 480 meters in altitude, we could lose everything in that vineyard. So the 2017, it's true that it was difficult, but it still keeps all the freshness of the garnacha, even though I have to say that all the berries, they were smaller, and it's true that it has a little bit more concentration, and it's a little bit more tannic than any other vintages that we can have, like the 18 or the 16, for example. This wine, it's made in concrete tanks, as you saw at the beginning of the presentation. So everything by gravity. This wine, it's made the steam. So we remove the green parts from the berries, and the fermentation takes place in those big naked concrete tanks. And I have to say that this wine never made the malolactic, because of the super nice low pH that it has, and the acidity that it has. It's a wine that it goes super well with a little bit of bacon, because the acidity, it cleans your mouth from the greasy of the bacon. But I tasted with some croquettes made with lobster, and it goes super well as well. And also with some greasy fishes, like sardines or anchovies, or that kind of umami flavors.
Well, let's start cooking.
And we are going to continue with Moraza Las Tasugueras Tempranillo. This is 100% Tempranillo, and it's from the same plot of the Tempranillo Blanco. This is a 2017, and you can see that the label is completely different. And it's because what I told you, that since the 2017, you can put the name of the village, But because of the frost, I was thinking something else, so I forgot to apply for that. And in this wine, you don't find the name of the village. So as I said, this wine also it's a little bit more tannic than regular Tempranillo that we usually have, and it's more. It has more structure, and it's because of the influence of that year. As I said, it was one of the last vineyards that we could have, because as I told you, this is in altitude, almost in the mountain. Winemaking, it's the same in concrete tanks, and the aging, it's also in concrete. So in here, the aging, it's also for 1 year, and the rest is in bottle. In here you have like more blueberries, those blue fruits, or like prunes, but always very fresh as well. And we are going to finish with.
So if you would compare the three reds that we have this evening, would you say that the Garnacha is the easiest to understand and drink with less aging potential, or because you said that the Tempranillo was a little bit deeper, a bit more concentrated?
Mm-hmm. I think that the potential of aging, because of the acidity, all of them, they have a big potential of aging. And according to easy drinking, maybe the Garnacha, it's easier to drink, and actually it's a variety that maybe people know much better in all their ways, like a Tempranillo, because at the end we have Grenache in France with different winemakings, with different agings, with oak, with barrels, with concrete, the same year. So it's something that people can understand much better, I think. And the Tempranillo, it's a variety that, even though everybody knows about it, it's something that from my point of view, it's unknown. But because not a lot of people have tasted a Tempranillo by itself, with their full expression. And sometimes when they think about Tempranillo, they think about something heavy, manic, alcoholic. And I could say that even though Las Tasuberas 2017, it's more tannic, I am always comparing that with the rest of the wines that I have. But if you compare it with another wine from Rioja, what they consider maybe in UK like a classic, they are going to find it much more elegant, lighter, more fine tannin. So I'm always comparing according to the other wine.
So you think that the general public has a sort of misconception on Tempranillo because of the, what is usually produced in a new area?
I think that yes, I could say that. I think that the Tempranillo, it has a lot of potential, and that's a variety that it has like 100 million different looks, depending on the way you do it. It's not always the variety like heavy. No, it depends on how high it is, on the soil, on the wind, on the orientation, on the age of the vineyards, and it's very delicate. It's soft, but it depends on what you do with the grape, because usually we do the harvest actually around 15 days before everybody else in the village, because what we are looking, it's, as I told you, much more delicate and elegant wines. In here, some of them, they are looking for wines with 14.5, with more confiture, jam flavors, and I want something much fresh, something that you can drink every single time with some beans or with some other thing or by itself. Not something that you drink one sip and you can think, oof, too much for me. So it's a variety that it can give you that if you treat it well. Actually, for example, this 2019, I sold most of my grapes to another winery because the 2019 it was a very dry year. The grapes, they were very small, so according to the flavor, they were like they had a lot of structure, a lot of color, the tannins were a little bit rough, and that's something that I am not looking for. And for me, the 2019, I only selected Cuatro Caminos, Las Tasugueras, Diasol, and any other vineyards according to Tempranillo, I'm always saying, because I sold most of the Tempranillo grapes, because for me, it was a year that it wasn't going to reflect what I want under my label. Okay. But for me, for example, the 2018 is so elegant, so fresh, so fruity. So my 2019, it's going to be very short according to wines. I don't have a very big quantity, actually. Cool. So if you want, we can go with the Graciano. This is 100% Graciano from the vineyard Cuatro Caminos, which is the vineyard of the white wine of skin contact. And this vineyard, as I told you, it belongs to my father, to me. And we have a little bit of Graciano. And it's because at some point the DOC decided that Rioja must be known for the reds, so they focused all the marketing into the reds. So they decided to make an adjustment into the vineyard. So they sent a letter to some producers that we had some white in some vineyards, saying that you had to adjust part of your vineyard for a red variety in order to do the focus in red. So, according to Cuatro Caminos, my father received the letter, and I have to say that he was so pissed off that he didn't want to remove all the plants of Bura. So what he did, but it was mandatory. So what he did, it was to cut the plants, but do the grafting with the Graciano from another vineyard close to us. So that's why that's the only reason that we have Graciano over there. Actually, the area, it's very good for the Graciano as well, that it's a family from the Mourvedre in France. And the 2015, it's the first year that we elaborated by itself. It's a super small production because it's only 280 bottles. And in here, this is the only wine that you're going to find a little bit of oak. So because of the production was so small, we decided to do it into 2 super old barrels with more than 20 years old and do the fermentation over there. And after that, it stayed for 6 months in those, in this barrel. And the first time that I tasted the Graciano, I was so surprised because it's a variety that it has nothing to do compared with the other wines that we have tasted before. The others are super based into the fruit, and in this one it's more pepper, it's a little bit more herbal. It's something completely new according to all the line of wines that we have in the winery. So, but we were very happy with the result, and actually we made it also the 2016, we change a little bit the winemaking. That's something that we usually change every year because we like to leave the wines reflect the year, to reflect everything. So we don't manipulate anything. So we let them express what they have to say. And after that, it's when we decide what to do. So the 2016, for example, it was made in a tank, but it was aged for 6 months into the barrels. The 2017, we lost, as I told you, all the grapes in Cuatro Caminos. And the 2018, it was made in tank, and it didn't have any oak at all because it was very expressive. In this case, we wanted to round a little bit the tannins, and it's and now I have to say that every year it's getting much better. And that's all the wines that we have to taste today. I hope that you have enjoyed the tasting and all our philosophy and everything that we do.
Hey, Julia, that was fantastic. So yeah, considering you were a little bit nervous at the beginning, I think you've done extremely well.
I am still nervous, I have to say.
Well, I think you should relax now.
Yeah, a little bit. Once you start drinking a little bit. And because of your company also.
Well, thank you very much, both. Thank you, Edouard, for your wonderful questions. Yeah, Julia, really, we look forward to seeing you in London back when things go back to normal, we hope. Yeah, and thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time, and same to you, Edouard. And thank you very much. Have a great evening and good night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. See you soon.